And welcome to another edition of Personal Best Radio. My name is Dr. Aaron Groh, and my guest today is Dr. Harville Hendrix, author of Getting the Love You Want. Now, Dr. Hendrix has spent more than 30 years as an educator and a therapist, specializing in working with couples, teaching marital therapy to therapists, and conducting couple workshops across the country. Dr. Hendrix is the co-creator with his wife, Helen Hunt, of the Imago Relationship Therapy, co-founder and president of Institute for Imago Relationship Therapy, based in Winter Park, Florida. He's the author of Getting the Love You Want, a guide for couples, and Keeping the Love You Find, a guide for singles, as well as several other books to help people improve relationships. We've asked to speak with him today about his book, Getting the Love You Want, and we're happy to have him on the show today. Dr. Hendrix, welcome to Personal Best Radio.
Thank you very much, Aaron. Glad to be here.
And thank you for coming as well. Now, as a preface to our discussion about helping couples, how does America compare with marriage difficulties? Over the years, I just heard so many percentages about divorce rates, and I don't know what it is right now. I'm curious if you could tell us that and how we compare with other countries.
My acquaintance with other countries is limited to about 30, where Imago relationship therapy is currently being practiced by Imago therapists. And the indications that I get from them, and especially countries that are not necessarily Western, like Korea, and I think in Liberia, and I know in Russia, the divorce rates are increasing in those countries in relationship to the changing political situation of the movement from autocracies, monarchies, to democracies. And for instance, in Korea, we are in a conversation right now with Korea about going there because of the soaring divorce rate, which is beginning to approach the divorce rate in the West of something like 50%. What is interesting is that in democratic societies where women have choices and more equality than in non-democratic societies, the stable marriages, and usually the stable marriages were stable because they were arranged marriages. As the arranged marriage gives way to the marriage by choice, which is what happens in the West, the divorce rate tends to go up. So I don't know specific figures of specific countries, but I do know that as we look at our work around the world, most of which are in countries that are moving toward democracy or are democracies, the divorce rates are about the same as they are in America.
I see. So, and in America, do we find them stabilizing, or is there movement on the percentages as well?
The divorce rate in America has been stable at around 50% for the past 60 years. It goes up and down. Sometimes it's 48%, sometimes it's 52, 55% on a particular year. But the overall average is at the median point of about 50%. There's some indication recently that there's been a slowing of that, but I think it's just an alteration.
I see.
I think it's just one of those fluctuations that in the past couple of years, the divorce rate has gone down in America by, I think, 2 percentage points. But then I'm guessing that it'll go back up.
Okay.
And the fact about that interests me is that if something is stable at around a particular set point of 50% for 60 years, I think we're not dealing with a what we could call a trend. We're actually dealing with a major shift in marriage, and many people worry that the shift is toward a marriage being devalued and being replaced by something else. In our view, mine and Helen's view, and as we work with couples and have worked with couples over the past 30 years, what we think is happening is that a form of marriage that has been around for a couple of hundred years in the West is beginning to break down, and we're shifting into a new form of marriage. That's the reason for that the divorce rate is in fact an indication of the outmoded character of the structure of marriage as it's existed for the past couple hundred years.
I see. The current institution may be changing, in fact.
The current institution is changing. It's not that marriage is going away, but it's that the current form of marriage is going away.
I see. Now, one more question to set the stage. What percentage would you say of marriages has at least one in the relationship that is not getting the love they want?
That's such a good. I like that question, because one answer is at least half because of the divorce rate.
Sure.
So then we have to say of intact relationships.
Exactly, that's what I was aiming for. Thank you.
What's going on there? And if you consider that marriage therapy is becoming the therapy of choice, that is, more and more marital therapy is growing more than other forms of therapy because it's now more and more appropriate and socially acceptable for couples who are in trouble to go to therapists, that the percentages are high. We still don't have exact figures. The figures that I'm most familiar with is that 50% of couples get divorced, which means that 50% are not getting the love they want. Of the intact marriages, the figures are that the happy marriages of the intact marriages is about 25%.
I see.
So 75% of the couples in relationships are having some difficulty.
I see. Wow.
About 20% of the couples in difficulty go to therapists, and we consider those are the ones who are either A, so much in pain that they have to do something, or they're so smart that they've decided to get some help.
Right.
So that mid-range of 25% are sort of moving toward getting help. 25% are in happy marriages. That 50% in between those two bookends of 25% would also indicate that those marriages are from satisfactory to miserable. So we're thinking that probably something like 25 to 30% of marriages, of current marriages, are those marriages in which both people are satisfied, are feeling that they're being respected, cared for, and loved in a sort of equal way.
Okay.
So it's a pretty daunting picture, that it's very, very difficult for people to know how to be married.
Well, many of us just simply, that wasn't part of our training growing up, so it's understandable that most have to kind of learn as they go along, and I'm grateful to have folks like yourself who are able to help with that. Now let's get into your book just a little bit. In Getting the Love You Want, part one of your book is entitled The Unconscious Marriage. Now I'm guessing this was a very deliberate choice of words. What are the indications that a marriage may be flying on autopilot?
Well, the first indication is when the same thing happens over and over again with no change.
Right.
Like the same argument comes up, the same poor solution comes up, the same patterns of reaction. One person, usually what happens when there's a conflict is one person withdraws and the other person chases. So these are autopilot behaviors, and I think that pretty much describes the core piece of that is the repetition of activities that are aimed at solving problems which make the problems worse, and it occurs over and over again, and both people react in the same way every time.
I see. Just kind of a replay of the same thing week in, week out. That's a strong indication right there.
Right.
Okay. Now, you with your wife originated a unique healing process for couples that you've entitled the Imago relationship theory. Could you tell us about that?
Yes. Well, Imago relationship therapy is basically a couples therapy. So that's the first thing to say about it, because it originated from working with couples, studying couples, and with the focus only on couples. Although we have learned later that the dynamics that we've learned about therapy, what really works, also can help individuals. Our interest has always been in couples, and still is. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that the word imago is a Latin word for image, and the image that it refers to is very important. That it postulates, and based on now new neurophysiological work with the brain, that everybody has in their minds, created in childhood with their parents, a picture of their parents. And this is called the imago. Mm-hmm. And that this picture is full of memories. It's basically a picture of memories. And the memories are good and bad, painful and pleasant. and for everybody. And that when we fall in love, when we move toward selecting an intimate partner, this unconscious image, the Imago, is the template which we overlay onto whoever we are interested in for a love relationship. And that person that we are interested in will have traits, or they will engage in behaviors that activate this image of our caretakers. And when they do, we will fall in love with them.
So an important point is that this is not really a conscious thing that goes on in your estimation, correct?
Not at all conscious, no. In fact, when you see the person, the eyes across the crowded room, and your heart goes pitter-patter and you start moving toward them, you have no idea what's going on. All you know is that you're feeling attracted to this person, you're feeling excited, your blood pressure changes, your breathing changes, and you do not know that this person whom you're drawn to, who might be the person of your dreams, will turn out probably to be the person of your nightmares.
Does this speak to the part about knowledge in a marriage? Now, you talk about the importance, there are hidden agendas that people bring into a marriage. Is this related to that, or is this another aspect of...
Yeah, it's related to that, because to finish that piece, when you do move across a crowded room in a love trance and connect with this person will have traits and behaviors that are similar to your caretakers. The important thing about that is they will have the negative traits that our behaviors or emit negative behaviors. That is, in your mind, they're negative. That are similar to your caretakers. So that while all of that is unconscious and not experienced, your unconscious mind registers this similarity. And the way we put it is, you believe when you're moving across the crowded room at the unconscious level, you're moving towards someone who's going to meet all the needs that were not met by your parents in your childhood. But since they are going to be similar, this person, similar to your caretakers, obviously the needs that were not met in childhood are not going to be met in this relationship. And that's going to become the basis for the conflict in the relationship. You still unconsciously won't know that when you say, where were you? Why didn't you call me? Why don't you hug me more? Show me some emotion. You don't really know that you're really talking in some sense both to your partner and to your parent. The energy of conflict is always rooted in the past.
Now we have to take a station break, and we'll continue our conversation with Dr. Hendrix right after these messages.